Y'all, I got a little bone to pick with social media, and you're gonna have to hear about it today. So, I'm gonna frame this in a little chat that I would like us to have about the difference between readings for the collective and reading the collective energy, because there is a fucking difference. Before I decided to, greenlight this YouTube project that Spirit sort of um, hardballed me into, I did some research and I followed a couple of different readers and a couple of different spiritual coaches, for lack of a better way to put it, who had different YouTube channels, different, accounts on some of the other socials. And I realized after several weeks of watching a couple of them that they're doing these readings for the collective. And every day they show up and they're doing these card readings and they're doing these readings for the collective, even just straight clairvoyant readings. And they're not actually fucking saying anything. It literally, but they're so theatrical and, so committed to what they're doing that it took me weeks of watching them kind of on repeat before I realized they just talked for 7 minutes and didn't say a goddamn thing. When you read for the collective, what you have to understand is that your message or a collective reading that you may be watching, that message might be meant for one single person in the collective. It might be specific to the situation of one specific person. But when you are reading for the collective, you are reading for the collective energy that anybody who ever tunes into that reading is watching, and the energy that they're carrying with them at any given time. So if I were reading even for the collective of my own personal clientele, where this can trip you up is that it's not just the energy of my client. If I'm reading for the collective of my clientele, it's the energy of every single person that specific person has interacted with, has come into contact with, has had to shield against, has struggled with. So it's all of the energies that each individual within that collective brought into the space of receiving that reading. That's a whole cosmic shit ton of energies right there, which is why it can be so difficult to read for the collective. And please understand, I am not bagging on every reader out there who is doing readings for the collective. There are some good ones. You just have to be very particular and you have to discriminate about what you take in and what you ingest, and realize what is for you and isn't for you. When you watch a whole bunch of collective readings, the tendency of your ego, the natural human instinctive tendency, is going to be to try to make it fit. And it doesn't matter how many times that specific reader tells you that they are reading for the collective. They tell you not to try to make it fit if it doesn't fit. They tell you if it's not for you not to take it on. Your ego is going to construct all of these ways and all of these details that yes, this fits, and yes, this is for you, and you're not necessarily getting an accurate message or even an accurate energetic connection because of all of those aforementioned factors. Conversely, when you're reading collective energy, like with astrology readings or card pulls that are guidance for the collective, you're just putting it out there without targeting. You're saying, this is the energy that's going on, this is my interpretation of the energy, and do with it what you will. Some of these readers that are on the various socials aren't necessarily making that distinction. So when you talk about macrocosmic astrology, for example, or macrocosmic astrological energy, what you're really talking about is those planetary bodies, which are living, breathing bodies, which are made of energy, have an irradiation of that energetic pattern, and that irradiation of that pattern affects those of us on planet Earth in these ways. And because it affects those of us on planet Earth in these ways, this is the potential that energy holds. So that's kind of how you can start to differentiate in terms of macrocosmic energy versus microcosmic energy, or reading for the collective versus reading collective energy. Because again, there is a difference. And I don't know that some of these people on some of these socials are particularly educated in that. And I see how some of their audience are interacting with that and how they are trying to make these things fit, desperately clutching at straws. Especially when we start talking about relationship readings, which are tricky in general because they are hyper specific to the two people that are in that relationship dynamic. Obviously, I'm talking about one-on-one interpersonal relationships here, not, collective familial relationships. So the energy is very specific to those two people. To take a dynamic that is so hyper specific to two people and filter it through the lens of perception of the energy of reading for the collective, that reading is going to get bastardized. There is very little chance that reading is going to be received or met by the exact two people that it was meant for. And yes, circumstantially, there can be other people that are in similar dynamics, but it's not a focused or a hyper-specific reading when you are giving it, for the collective and you're taking it out to everybody. And even when we think about, if we don't know that specific reader who's reading for the collective, we don't know what their motivation is. We don't know what their lens of perception is. We don't know what their background is. We don't know what their education is. Hopefully at some point those things are shared, in a bio or in, an intro video that's pinned or something along those lines. But if we don't have that information, we don't even know if, reading for those two specific people in that very hyper-specific relationship is a skill set that this particular reader is good for. Intuition is very unique. It's bio-individual. And so you want as few people involved in a reading as possible, which is why these readings for the collective can be such a point of concern and can be misconstrued. So I'm not telling you not to watch them. I'm not telling you that every reader out there is, absolute shit and isn't accurately reading for the collective. But what I am telling you is that you need to be very discerning as to what is for you. And, most things that are for the collective, yes, you're part of the collective, but you're also a unique individual. So most of those things are not necessarily going to be for you. And I know there are people that are coming up all of the time on your FYP saying, I trust that this video has found who it's meant to find. Yes and no, because algorithms are a very specific thing that have nothing to do with the intention behind, hoping that video finds who it's meant for. And again, reading collective energy is saying these current energetic themes that I'm seeing from multiple clients, I'm seeing from the astrology, I'm seeing patterns over time in specific relationships. That is very different and much more specific than giving, trying to give specific one-size-fits-all readings to a large group of people and a large audience. So just be mindful, educate yourself, know the difference, and know if it doesn't feel good to you, it's probably not for you. If it causes you to bristle or causes you to feel a certain kind of way or puts you into doubt or kicks your ego up, that reading's not for you. That's a fact. Done. So don't engage with that anymore, and don't give them second, third, 45th, 187th chances. If somebody rubs you the wrong way and you are not energetically resonating with them, including me, don't engage with them anymore. Only engage with those people and those readings and those situations that feel energetically aligned to you. That is how you can best receive the most accurate information and guidance, how you can work with your intuition, and how you can support yourself and your energy field.